The Armenian Prime Minister has ignored calls for his resignation as protests against the peace deal he signed with neighbouring Azerbaijan continue. Nikol Pashinyan has defended his decision to sign the deal, which surrendered territory in the contested region of Nagorno-Karabakh following Azeri military advances. The Armenian parliament is expected to hold an emergency session on Mr. Pashinyan's political future. We can speak to the regional expert Annelle Sheline, who's with the Quincy Institute think tank. Thanks very much for talking to us. How much pressure is Mr. Pashinyan under then?
The pressure is really high. The government of Armenia only came into power, this new democratic government came into power in 2018. And so the concern now is that a lot of people are calling for his resignation and even for the military to take over, which could spell the end of democracy in Armenia.
Is that something that is likely, do you think?
I mean, it's a new government and people really are demanding that he step down. And the concern is, that the ruling party that had been in power prior to the populist revolution that sort of brought Pashinyan to power, that could easily sort of retake control.
But presumably the same people who wanted that ruling party out, who demonstrated long and loudly a couple of years back to get eventually Mr. Pashinyan into power, they don't want that outcome either, do they?
Not necessarily, but I think at this point people are really reeling. I mean, the government had not prepared the Armenian population for this loss, and they had told them that Armenia would be victorious. They anticipated an outcome similar to what had happened in the 90s, where with Russian help they were able to take control of both Nagorno-Karabakh and sort of the surrounding territory that connects the disputed territory with Armenia itself. And so I think a lot of people were just completely blindsided by this loss and are now just reeling and aren't quite sure sort of what the best outcome would be. And so I think they're seeing maybe military takeover as the best option.
And there are potential pressure points to come, aren't there? Because over the next few days and weeks, the Armenians are going to have to give up more territory.
Indeed. And, there's concern, that Armenia moving forward, even if this ceasefire does hold, which hopefully it will, obviously for the sake of, the lives of the population. But, Armenia has an interest in sort of maintaining this sense of loss so that moving forward, potentially the UAE might be willing to give them money in order to sort of irk Iran to bring this issue forwards again, so that if Armenia does kind of maintain the sense of grievance, we might just see the same sort of outcome again. Whereas, what we've observed now very much parallels or sort of mirrors the outcome we observed in 1994, except that it's the opposite. So now it's Armenia that has lost territory and has, refugees. Whereas in 1994, it was Azerbaijan that had lost territory and had this population of refugees who were, anxious to return home. And so, decades later, now they are beginning to return home. But the concern is that we're just going to see another cycle of this play out. It's just unclear how long it will take for that to happen.
Fascinating stuff. Annelle Sheline from the Quincy Institute think tank. Thanks so much for joining us.